Hi, my name is Frederick Bauer, and my presentation is on pinball machines. Now, my main argument is pinball is a game of chance, mimicry, competition, and vertigo. It tests your hand-eye coordination, reflexes, and focus with lights, bells, buzzers, moving objects, and music. And it was also one of the most popular games of the century. Now, the first known form of pinball dates back to 1770 in a game called Bagatelle. Bagatelle was a lot like billiards, where there's a little metal ball and a stick, and you hit the ball with the stick, and you see which hole it falls into, and whichever one it does, that's your score. This was very popular in England, and especially in pubs. Now, the first coin-operated games were invented in 1931. Then the first games with bumpers were invented in 1937. Then the most revolutionary was in 1947, and the first game to add flippers in a game called Humpty Dumpty. Now, what was interesting about this was this game actually had 6 flippers instead of more modern day games have 2. And here's a clip of Humpty Dumpty actually being played. As you can see, there are 3 bumpers on the left and 3 bumpers on the right. Now, pinball hasn't always been seen as a fun, family-friendly arcade game. And in 1942, it was actually outlawed in many major cities. And this is because it was seen as a game of chance and was actually considered a form of gambling. Now, what also didn't help was most machines were made in Chicago, and it was said that criminals were in a very large control of the industry. Now, because of all these laws against pinball, police squads actually started to perform prohibition-like raids on candy stores, bowling alleys, bars, and amusement centers. And this here is actually a picture of the New York City Police Commissioner smashing a pinball machine with a sledgehammer. Now, pinball wasn't illegal everywhere, but it still didn't have a great image. It was kind of known as the rebellious cool guy game. And in movies, it was common with the culture of cigarettes, leather jackets, and motorcycles. Kind of like in this picture of the Fonz from Happy Days. His character is the guy that wears the leather jacket and has his hair slicked back and rides a motorcycle, and he also plays pinball. Now, by the 1970s, pinball started to gain more acceptance. It started to get seen more as a game of skill that kind of tested your hand-eye coordination, focus, and reflexes, and not really as much of a game of chance. Now, one big thing that happened was this guy here with the mustache is a guy, Roger Sharp, and he actually had to play in front of the New York City Council to prove that it is a game of skill and not luck. Now, one very good example of showing how pinball was getting more accepted in the culture and just how big it really was is in 1969, the rock band The Who released their hit song Pinball Wizard. Now, the idea of the song is about a deaf, dumb, and blind boy named Tommy. And the idea is that because of all of his disabilities, it actually helps him in the game because he has no distractions. This song is from their rock opera, Tommy, which was later made into a film in 1975. So I actually have a clip from the Pinball Wizard scene in Tommy, but this version is sung by Elton John. Now, one of the great things about pinball is that every game is different. There are different ways to score more points and win free games on every table. And once pinball really started to take off and all the laws started to fade away from it, it was pretty popular that most machines were licensed products. So practically every machine was themed off of a movie like Rocky, a show like The Simpsons, a band like AC/DC, or even a sports team like the Chicago Cubs. Now, the fall of pinball really started to happen from the late 70s to early 80s. And this is because arcade games just started to take over. people were pretty attracted to the lights and the glow of the arcade game. And it was actually much easier for the owners of the stores to repair an arcade game rather than a pinball machine. Now, pinball today is not completely dead. It's still actually pretty popular in pizza stores and bars. And there's actually a pizza shop right off campus called Rocky Mountain Pizza that has a Star Trek pinball machine that's fairly new. And there's actually a pinball league. It's the Professional and Amateur Pinball Association, and they hold a world championships every year. Now this guy right here is Robert Gagnon. He is the 2016 World Pinball Champion, and he's been suffering from autism his entire life. Now, HBO Real Sports did a piece on him, so I actually have a few clips from there.
This is where pinball is different than any other sport, because 28-year-old Vancouver native Robert Gagnon is a different kind of champion.
What's the plan?
Just to go in there and play my game and not think of anyone else's.
Gagnon is an autistic savant, a man who struggles with almost every part of life outside the boundaries of a pinball machine, but is a genius inside of them.
Like a big shot.
Now, this clip is a few minutes later in the piece, and this one's more along the lines of the Pinball Wizard lyrics, where they actually say his disabilities help him in the game.
Good seeing you.
Researchers at the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota actually studied Robert's brain several years ago, and after a number of tests came away with a theory on what makes him special.
I think Robert literally experiences the visual world differently than you and I.
Neurologist Dr. Andrew Reeves says he first noticed it when he gave Robert this simple examination.
Can you see these bars? Just kind of keep an eye on them. Tested simple with vertical or horizontal bars that are moving in front of our eyes, and our eyes naturally flick as they go by. He doesn't do that.
Now, the future of pinball doesn't look so good. With all the new ideas and new games and how far our technology is advancing, all arcade games are starting to die off. Now, the game pinball will still be around in virtual reality and video games, but the actual tables and machines will be pretty hard to find. Here are all my sources, and that's all I have. Thank you.